Hi there, and welcome back to Reddit Confessions. If you're new here, buckle up, because what I'm about to share isn't just a story. It's a slow collapse served on ceramic plates, one dinner at a time. I didn't notice it until the forks stopped clinking. You know that sound. Not the chewing, not the talking, but the tiny, metallic rhythm of people still sharing a table, still sharing a life. Our kitchen used to hum with it. And then it didn't. Last night. Or maybe it was the night before. I honestly can't tell anymore. I sat down to eat and realized there was no silverware. No napkin. No Bonnie. But the plate was there. Roast chicken. Potatoes. Herbie carrots. Hot. Fresh. My favorite. And a single post-it note beside it. I'm not your waitress. That was it. No goodbye. No love. No anger. Just that. A sentence that felt like both a punch and a shrug. And the worst part? She cooked the chicken perfectly. She still cared enough to make it right. Then she left. I didn't need it. I just sat there, staring at it like maybe the steam would spell out something else, something that made more sense. But it never did. And neither did she. No texts. No calls. No returned socks. Just gone. I went into the bedroom and opened her closet. Empty. But not completely. One sandal left behind. Just one. Like she wanted me to know she had walked away and wasn't planning on coming back to even things out. You don't realize how loud absence can be until it echoes through the drawer where her sweaters used to be. You don't realize how abandoned you feel until you find the to-do list she left on the fridge, with "buy more creamer" crossed off, but "fix us" never written down at all. I tried to retrace it. What I said. What I did. Maybe it was when I asked if she could make spaghetti the next day. Maybe it was when I forgot to pick up her dry cleaning for the third time. Maybe it was every time I said thanks with my mouth, but not with my eyes. But this was nuclear. This was the kind of quiet that doesn't just fill a room, it swallows it. At 3:14 a.m., I opened the trash. Her old gym card, torn in half. At 4:02 a.m., I checked our shared calendar. Her name was wiped from every upcoming event. At 5:09 a.m., I realized she hadn't blocked me. She just didn't need to. Because people don't always slam doors when they leave. Sometimes, they just stop answering when you call for dinner. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. I sat in the kitchen, next to that untouched plate of roast chicken, until the skin went rubbery and the carrots shriveled like old fingers. At some point, the refrigerator light shut off and never turned back on. Or maybe it was just my brain that powered down. At 8:37 p.m., I opened the blinds. That's when I saw it. Her car. Bonnie's dark green Subaru, pulled up quietly across the street, almost like it was trying not to be noticed. The headlights were off, but the engine was running. It was subtle, but it was her. That curved rearview mirror still had the sunflower air freshener dangling from it, the one I bought her as a joke because she said our garage smelled like a dentist's office. I watched like a ghost, like I didn't live here anymore, like this was someone else's movie. And that's when I saw him. The passenger side door opened. A man stepped out, tall, bearded, holding what looked like a duffel bag. He didn't kiss her. He didn't even linger. He just grabbed the bag, shut the door, and walked into the duplex across the street. I ducked like a coward. Like if she saw me watching, I'd get in trouble, like I was the one who did something wrong. My wife didn't just leave me. She moved him in to a place I could see from my front window. I wanted to believe it wasn't what it looked like. That maybe he was a relative, a friend, a mechanic, anyone but the obvious. But then I remembered the torn gym card in the trash and the subtle scent on her old hoodie. It wasn't rosemary. It was cologne. Spicy, unfamiliar, expensive. I don't wear cologne. Bonnie used to joke that I smelled like warm laundry and mild anxiety. Maybe that's all I ever was, a walking comfort zone. A human flannel blanket. The problem with comfort is, people stop feeling it once they get used to it. I didn't go out to confront her. I didn't throw open the door or shout across the street like some unhinged soap opera character. I just stood there, in the dark, holding my coffee mug like it was going to anchor me. She stayed in the car for a while after he left. Didn't check her phone. Didn't cry. Just stared ahead. Maybe she was thinking. Maybe she was mourning. Maybe she was wondering if I had noticed. Or maybe she was just waiting for the garage to open. Except this time, it wouldn't. Because I had changed the code. That's right. Earlier that day, after crying in the pantry, of all places, I logged into the security panel and changed the garage code. She hadn't lived here for 24 hours, Yet she was trying to slip back in like nothing had changed. Like this house still recognized her presence. Well, it didn't. Not anymore. The garage door stayed shut. She didn't try to open it. Maybe she already knew. She drove off 5 minutes later. But I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel strong. I felt like a man who won a game he never wanted to play. I sat back down at the kitchen table, looked at the cold food again, and for the first time since she left, I picked up my fork. And I ate. Not because I was hungry, but because it was mine now. My plate. My silence. My mess to clean. That night, I didn't sleep again. But I started something I should have started a long time ago. I wrote down everything. Every time she stayed late. Every time she said she was emotionally tired. Every time she started dressing nicer for inventory meetings. I wasn't building a case. I was building a mirror. And what I saw looking back wasn't her. It was me. I don't even know what part of me thought walking across the street was a good idea. It wasn't boldness. It wasn't closure. It was something in between, like curiosity that had fermented into desperation. 2 days had passed since I saw her in the car. 2 days since that man casually strolled into the duplex like he'd lived there before. I hadn't heard from her. Not a single message. She didn't block me. She didn't call me. She simply erased me like chalk on a sidewalk before the rain. I kept thinking about the roast chicken. How hot it was when she placed it down. How careful she was, even as she left. It haunted me. Not because it was a goodbye, but because it was planned. That note, "I'm not your waitress," wasn't a reaction. It was a line she'd rehearsed. Probably more than once. Maybe in front of a mirror, or worse, maybe with him. By the third night, I cracked. I put on the old brown coat I kept in the entryway. As I slipped it on, I felt something in the pocket, a grocery receipt, 2 weeks old. From the store near her work. It listed items she never told me she bought. Brie cheese, wine, dark chocolate, a set of tea light candles. We never had brie in our fridge. At 9:14 p.m., I crossed the street. Not fast. Not slow. Just walking. I felt exposed. Not just because of what I was doing, but because it was the first time I'd looked at our house from the outside in. It was dim, dark, lifeless, like it had lost its center of gravity when she walked out. And maybe it had. I still don't know who I am without her orbit. I didn't knock right away. I just stood there, heart pounding like a drum with no rhythm, and then I saw it. Through the blinds. He was wearing my jacket. The tan one I used to wear every fall. The one Bonnie once called "So librarian core it hurts." I hadn't seen it in months. I thought I lost it. No, she took it. Or maybe he took it. Either way, it was on him now, and he was sitting on our old sofa. The love seat from our first apartment. The one she insisted we keep even when we upgraded. He was laughing. She was laughing. And I watched, frozen, as he leaned in and said something. And she smacked his arm the way she used to smack mine. That playful way that made you feel like you were the funniest person on earth. I couldn't hear what he said, but I recognized it. I recognized the shape of the words. Because it was my joke. The one I made last year at her cousin's baby shower, when I joked about our future baby being born already judging us. She loved that joke. And now, she was laughing at him telling it. Like I never existed. I couldn't move. My hand was on the doorframe, my breath shallow, like I was trying to shrink into the bricks. I wanted to scream. I wanted to knock. I wanted to yank that door open and ask him where he got my jacket, my joke, and my wife. But I didn't. I turned around and walked back across the street. It was the slowest walk of my life. Inside, the house felt colder. Like it had heard everything too. I went into the laundry room and found the drawer where she used to keep our spare keys, coupons, and birthday cards. Inside, there was a letter. No envelope. No salutation. Just a folded page, handwritten. Lowell, I need to feel seen again. I need to feel like a person, not a schedule. You were good, kind, familiar. But I want fire now, even if it burns. I reread that last line until the words blurred. She wanted fire, even if it burns. And that's when I realized, maybe I was the burn. Maybe she was already scorched and just didn't say it until the flames touched someone else. I didn't cry that night. I wish I had. I didn't break things. I didn't drink. I just sat on the kitchen floor with the letter in my hand and the clock ticking louder than usual. She gave him my jacket, my words, my chair. And suddenly, I wondered what else she gave him that used to be ours. I didn't expect her sister to show up. That was never part of the equation. Alyssa and I were never close. She always treated me like I was a boring sweater her sister refused to throw out. You know the type, polite smiles, tight hugs, never really listening. If there was one person I expected to side with Bonnie, it was Alyssa. So imagine my confusion when she texted me on a Sunday morning. Can I come over? I think you deserve to know something. I didn't reply right away. I stared at my phone for almost 10 minutes. Then I texted back, yes. Back door's unlocked. She arrived within 15 minutes, holding 2 coffees. That alone threw me off. We hadn't exchanged more than a handful of words in the past 6 months, and now she was handing me a caramel macchiato like we were brunch buddies. She didn't sit down right away. She just stood in the kitchen and looked around like she was trying to recognize the place. Finally, she said, so this is what it looks like without her. It wasn't judgmental, it was sad. Like she already knew more than I did. I offered her a chair. She refused. Instead, she opened her purse and pulled out a crumpled envelope. She left this in my car by accident, she said. I wasn't going to give it to you. But then I changed my mind. Inside were 6 photos. Printed, glossy, old school, and I knew immediately what they were. Bonnie, him, laughing, one with her sitting on his lap, one of them on a boat, Bonnie in sunglasses I'd never seen before, one where they were clinking glasses at a cabin fireplace. There was even one where she was wearing his hoodie, the same one I saw in our laundry basket a month ago and thought, stupidly, that it was a donation item she hadn't thrown out yet. My stomach dropped. Not because I saw her with him. I'd already accepted that. No, what gutted me was the dates printed in the corners. Some of them were 6 months old. One was from last Christmas. She spent that Christmas with me. We opened gifts together. She gave me a sweater I never wore, and now I understand why. She probably bought it out of guilt. Meanwhile, 2 days later, she was sipping hot cocoa in some snowy cabin with another man. I looked up at Alyssa, trying to form words that wouldn't come out. She sat down without me asking this time. Her tone changed. She's been planning this longer than you think, Lowell, she said. And I know because she told me things. Not details, but enough. She said she was suffocating. That you were dependable, but not present. I wanted to interrupt. I wanted to say, I was present. I was always here. But my voice cracked before I could get it out. Alyssa softened. Look, I'm not here to defend her. I'm not even speaking to her right now. What she did, it wasn't fair. She used your kindness as an excuse to disappear. She wanted something messy, something that felt alive, and instead of talking to you, she ran to someone who made her feel reckless. I asked her, do you know who he is? She nodded. His name's Conrad. He's a travel photographer. Met him during a library charity event. They emailed for months. Then it turned into meetups. And then, she stopped hiding it. I must have looked pathetic, because she reached across the table and put her hand over mine, something she's never done. You didn't do anything wrong by being safe, Lowell. She just wanted to feel like a teenager again. But trust me, that never lasts. The conversation moved slowly after that. We didn't say much more. She left after finishing her coffee, and I stood at the window as she backed out of the driveway. I didn't cry. I think I had used up most of my tears already. Instead, I went upstairs, opened the closet, pulled out the box where Bonnie kept all our old letters, cards, travel stubs, and dried flowers. I read one of her anniversary notes from year 4. You are my quiet, my anchor, my home. I folded it up and dropped it into the trash. Because sometimes people call you home, right before they burn the house down. I didn't plan to see them that night. I wasn't creeping or spying. I wasn't trying to catch them doing anything. I just needed a walk. After Alyssa left and the photos were tucked away in a drawer I'll probably never open again, I sat in the dark for hours, trying to figure out what you're supposed to do when someone quietly burns down your life and leaves behind polite ashes. There's no playbook for being replaced, especially not when the replacement fits so neatly into the life you built. Around 10 p.m., I put on my shoes and just walked. No headphones, no route, no goal, just movement. I drifted through the neighborhood like a forgotten ghost, past familiar porches, dim-lit windows, and homes that hadn't been hollowed out by absence. And then, somehow, I ended up across the street again. The duplex where Bonnie was now living out her fire, as she called it. There were fairy lights in the window, soft music leaking out, not loud, but just enough that you could feel it if you stood still. And I did. I stood just far enough away not to be seen, just close enough to hear the laugh. Her laugh. She was laughing like the world had reset itself, like someone had finally cut the weight off her shoulders. I recognized that laugh, because I used to be the reason for it. And then I saw them. They were sitting on the porch steps. She was in a hoodie, probably his, her knees tucked under her chin. He was pouring wine into mugs like it was a cute little ritual they shared. It probably was. They looked like a movie scene. Autumn breeze, golden porch light, two people wrapped in the lie of something beginning. And then, she looked up. She saw me. Our eyes locked for maybe 2 seconds. But it felt like standing in the middle of an intersection, staring into oncoming traffic. She didn't flinch. She didn't smile. She didn't look surprised. She waved. Just a small, polite wave. Like I was a friendly neighbor walking by. And then she turned back to him. That moment broke something in me that I didn't know was still whole. It wasn't just the fact that she was sitting with another man. I had already processed that. It wasn't even the wave. It was how normal it all looked. Like I was the stranger now. Like I had never mattered beyond the fading photographs and the worn-out cardigan still draped over our old couch back home. I stumbled back across the street. I remember tripping over the curb and scraping my hand. I didn't even look at the blood. I just kept walking. When I got inside, I went straight to the bedroom and ripped the sheets off the bed. All of them. The pillowcases, the blanket, even the mattress pad. I stuffed everything into a garbage bag and dragged it to the driveway. I didn't set it on fire. I'm not that dramatic. But I left it by the curb like it was trash collection day. Because that's what it felt like. Like every part of our marriage had been taken out with the weekly garbage, and she didn't even double bag it. Back inside, I sat on the floor with nothing but an empty mattress and a flickering lamp. And that's when I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened our shared email account. We'd used it to book flights, save invoices, store scanned documents. Boring adult stuff. But I searched her name in the inbox just to see what I might find. And that's when I discovered something worse than the photos. Worse than the porch wave. Worse than the hoodie. A forwarded confirmation for a storage unit rental. Dated 2 months ago. In her name. Paid for with our joint credit card. She had been moving her life out slowly, piece by piece, while I was still asking her if she needed help with groceries. I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror. My face looked pale, ghosted. Like someone who had been living in a story someone else had already ended. She waved at me like I was the postman. And I waved back, but only in the reflection, and only to a man I didn't recognize anymore. The next morning, I woke up on the mattress. No sheets, no pillows, just the raw cotton cover sticking to my skin like regret. The sun was leaking in through the blinds, but I didn't feel warmth. I just felt the weight of the storage unit confirmation I found in our email, echoing in my head like a siren I couldn't shut off. She'd been removing pieces of herself, and us, from the house behind my back for months. I had to know what she took, and more importantly, what she left behind. The address was listed in an industrial zone on the edge of town. The kind of place surrounded by chain-link fences, security cameras, and rows of orange roll-up doors that all looked the same. Sterile. Hidden. Perfect for secrets. I didn't hesitate. I didn't text her. I didn't ask permission. I just drove. The man at the front desk barely looked up. When I showed him the digital receipt and said I was listed as co-owner on the credit card, he glanced at his screen, nodded, and handed me the access code. No questions. No emotion. Unit 319. I still remember the sound the lock made when it popped open, like a sigh, like something finally giving up. The door creaked as I pulled it open, and then I was staring into a space I wasn't supposed to see. It was organized. Not chaotic. Not shoved or dumped. It was deliberate. Like she'd been curating this place as her new museum. Our wedding photo was leaned carefully against a chair. The letters I thought she had thrown away were sorted in plastic bins. Her old record player. The pink blanket her mom knitted for her. The earrings I gave her on our 5th anniversary, still in the box, unopened. And in the far back, against the wall, was the box. It was different. Heavier. Taped tightly. On the lid, in her handwriting, was one word: later. I stood there for a long time before I moved. Something about that word made me hesitate. Later. Not donate. Not memories. Not junk. Just a promise. Or maybe a warning. I ripped the tape, peeled back the flaps, and inside, letters. But not from her. From me. Dozens of them. Handwritten. Typed. Scribbled on napkins, receipts, sticky notes. Letters I had written to her over the years. Birthday cards. Anniversary notes. Even dumb little post-its I left on the fridge with doodles, or "Don't forget to eat today." All of them. Saved. Stored. Collected. Like part of her had wanted to remember me, even as she was actively erasing me. At the very bottom of the box, under a crumpled scarf, was something else. A notebook. Leather-bound. Worn. Familiar. My journal. I hadn't seen it in years. I thought I lost it during a move. I never even mentioned it to her. It was mine, the one place I had written things I never said out loud. And yet, here it was, in her storage unit. I opened it. Every page had been read. Some underlined. Some with comments in the margins. Questions. Tiny notes in her handwriting. She'd been reading my mind for years without me knowing. She'd studied the version of me I never had the courage to show her. And now she was living across the street, laughing on porches, while this version of me sat quietly in a box labeled "Later." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sat on the floor of the unit, surrounded by curated memories and misplaced intentions. And I flipped through the journal, page by page, until I found the one entry that stopped me cold. Sometimes I think she's slipping away, but I'm too afraid to ask her. If I ask, she might say yes. She circled it, drew a line to the margin, and wrote, "You were right. I was already gone." That was the moment. That was the moment I stopped being confused and started being furious. Because she knew. She knew I felt it. She knew I wasn't blind. But instead of giving me a chance to fight, she watched me flail in slow motion, documenting the downfall like an exhibit. She left my thoughts in a box, my heart in the trash, and my jacket on another man's back. I stood up. I left the unit exactly as I found it. I didn't take anything. Because now I understood. She didn't want to forget me. She just wanted to outgrow me. Quietly, beautifully, without confrontation. She wanted to be the kind of person who had moved on without ever having to deal with the mess. But people aren't meant to be filed away. And journals don't stay quiet forever. I didn't hear from her for over a week after the storage unit. And for a while, I thought maybe that was the end. Maybe I had seen all there was to see. She had left, she had replaced me, and I had accepted it, or at least pretended to. But then came the message. It arrived on a Thursday, late, around 11:49 p.m. I was lying in bed, phone on my chest, listening to the ceiling creak as the house settled in its emptiness. And then, a buzz. I almost didn't look. The message was short. "He's asleep. I wish you were here instead." My heart stopped. For half a second, I was dumb enough, hopeful enough, to believe it was for me. That maybe, somehow, she had realized her mistake. That maybe the laughs and the fairy lights and the porch wine had worn off. That maybe I still lived somewhere in the quiet corners of her mind. But then I saw the second message. The one that made everything shatter. "Lowell doesn't suspect a thing." I found the journal, but I put it back exactly where it was. "He'll never know." She had typed my name. She was talking about me, not to me. And I wasn't the one she wished was there. She meant him. The wrong name. The right pain. A digital accident. A betrayal typed too fast. Sent too confidently. And landed right in my inbox like a grenade with a blinking cursor. I stared at the screen for what felt like an hour. Then reread it. Then again. I checked the sender 3 times. There was no doubt. It was from her. No hacking, no spoofing, no scam. Just pure, human cruelty wrapped in misfired intention. It was never about love. It wasn't even about passion. It was about escape. She used me like a costume. A disguise she wore while she tested out who she wanted to be next. And now that she was in her new life, she still needed me to be clueless. To play the fool. To hold still long enough for her to disappear cleanly. But she slipped. And in that slip, I saw everything. I didn't reply. I didn't scream. I didn't call her or throw the phone. I just sat there, numb, stunned at the layers of it all. It wasn't enough that she left me. She had to lie to the man she left behind. She had to borrow my trust one last time just to feel smart, superior, untouchable. Except now, she wasn't untouchable anymore. I opened my laptop. I went to the cloud account she hadn't remembered to log out of. Yes, I had access. No, I hadn't used it before. But now, all bets were off. Photos. Dozens. All of them recent. Trips I never knew about. Smiles I hadn't seen in years. Bonnie and him. Documenting a life that was built with pieces stolen from mine. From our home, our routines, our inside jokes. I scrolled through every one of them like I was identifying a body. And then, I found it. A draft email. Unsent. Titled, "To Lowell, for later. I clicked. My hands shook. If you're reading this, it means I failed. Or maybe it means I couldn't lie anymore. You were always good to me. Safe. But I stopped feeling like a person in our life together. I became a caretaker, a scheduler, a sidekick, and I needed more. I needed air. I needed someone who made me feel messy again. I know I handled it wrong. I know you didn't deserve this. But I did it anyway. I'm sorry. I'm not proud of it. But I can't pretend anymore. I hope one day you understand. Even if you never forgive me. That was it. No punctuation after the last line. Just the cursor blinking like it was waiting for a better ending she didn't know how to write. It hit me then. She had never intended to send it. She had drafted her guilt and stuffed it behind digital walls like everything else. Hoping later would mean never. But now I had it. I closed the laptop and stared into the darkness. That same eerie silence that had swallowed our kitchen the night she left the plate of roast chicken and walked away. And for the first time since she vanished from my life, I said something out loud, just one sentence. I hope he makes you feel like a person. Because I sure as hell felt like a ghost. I didn't tell her I knew. Not in a text. Not in a letter. Not in some dramatic confrontation that ended in yelling and shattered glass. That's not who I am. And deep down, even after everything, I didn't want to give her that much of me. Instead, I did something she'd never expect. I packed up the house. Slowly, quietly, carefully. Every room, every corner, every dusty drawer filled with the remnants of what we used to be. I didn't take much, just what was mine. A few books, my guitar, the clock from my dad's workshop, and one mug. The one she never used but always kept in the back of the cabinet. The one that said here for the long haul. I left everything else. And then I wrote her a note. Not digital. Not angry. Not sarcastic. Just honest. Bonnie, you were right. You stopped feeling like a person. And I stopped treating you like one. I made you dinner. I said thank you. I thought it was enough. But love isn't a list of habits. It's not silence disguised as peace. You needed more. You found more. I hope it was worth it. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. I'm not your burden. And you're not my ghost. So I'm leaving you with everything. The house, the furniture, the keys. Except for one thing. Myself. I left the note on the kitchen counter, right where she left her post-it the night she walked out. Then I locked the door behind me and walked away. Not out of rage. Not out of revenge. But because finally, I could. I moved to a smaller apartment across town. Nothing fancy. Just quiet. Just mine. I started journaling again. Not about her. Not about the past, but about now. I even signed up for a pottery class, of all things. I figured if I could survive heartbreak, I could survive clay. I've stopped checking her social media. I've stopped wondering if she misses me. Because honestly, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm building something new. And for the first time in years, I'm not waiting for someone to set the table. I'm cooking for one, and I like what I'm making. Thanks for listening to my story on Reddit Confessions. I want to ask you something. Have you ever accidentally found out the truth about someone you trusted in a message that wasn't meant for you? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if this video hit home for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, you're not anyone's backup plan.